Like to welcome everybody to our lunch and learn session this week, and I hope everyone's having a good Monday. This week, hopefully you can see my screen, but kind of changed up the slides a little bit. We're going to talk about project planning, kind of a part 4 in our series. Additional tips for project planning that we've come across, we've realized we didn't cover in the previous one, so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. If you haven't seen the first 3 parts, you can email me. I know a few of you have, and I've sent them, but we have recordings for parts 1, 2, and 3 that we can send as well. So just give me an email and I can send those over to you afterwards as well if you'd like to watch those. Just for those who are new with us, we have these lunch and learns every other Monday. We do it in such a way so that we're able to exchange some knowledge that we've gained from years of experience working with and utilizing Unanet. We like to kind of start with the basics and then kind of move from there into more advanced things. So some of you may be just getting started with using Unanet. Others may be super users. So we try to, again, start with the basics. And if you have more advanced questions, please feel free to ask, and we can tackle those as well based on the audience that we have today. Towards the end of the presentation, we'll have time for question and answer as well, whether it be on the subject of project planning or on another subject to do with Unanet and the use of Unanet. So please go ahead and ask those questions. And also, if you have questions pertaining to project planning, just go ahead and unmute or put in the chat box any of your questions as well. And as we have little breaks in the presentation, we can tackle those questions as we go as well as they're front of mind. And last but not least, any feedback or suggestions that you have for future presentations, future topics, please feel free to email me, and we can incorporate those into some of our upcoming plans. And we always welcome being able to tailor these to how people want to learn, what they want to see, and what they're struggling with. So, and again, if you're interested in learning more about this subject, project planning, we can help you one-on-one. So please reach out to me if need be, or I'll also be sending a survey after the presentation along with the recording. So you can also reach out to me that way too if you'd like more assistance, more focused assistance on using project planning. Just by way of announcements, I changed the slides up a little bit just because there's always a crunch of time at the end. So I wanted to get this out before the end. So September 1st is Labor Day, which would be our next meeting. So that's going to be canceled just so we can observe Labor Day. We won't be working. And then September 15th, we have a unique presentation, Unanet Data Lake and Power BI, and usually using those tools and how they might fit for your processes as well. So we have a good presentation on that coming up. So we look forward to that as well. So you can put that in your calendars. And again, if you need one-on-one help, please take down my information. A lot of you probably already have it, but if you need to email me or call me or reach out to us via the website, we're more than willing to help in any way we can. Unanet, accounting, outsource to help, however we can help you do your day-to-day. But without further ado and all of that out of the way, I'll introduce Tammy Kilhullen. You've heard from and know Tammy if you've been on these lunch and learns in the past. She's a senior consultant with OAS and really an expert on the team. So we look forward to her presentation. Again, the theme is Project Planning Part 4, Additional Tips for Project Planning. So Tammy, whenever you're ready, feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that. I hope everyone's having a good morning or a good start to their afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can jump right into Unanet and talk planning. So hopefully everyone can see my screen.
We got it.
Perfect, thanks. So since our prior sessions where we covered kind of some of the basics on prior planning, in talking with a few clients that are using the system, one of the things I kind of heard and was, we need to be able to add our resources and be able to copy and have our project managers or our person setting up the project plans, have the ability to be very efficient. So one of the things I wanted to show today as one of my additional tips is I actually have created a project plan that's just a template, and it's for some type of project that we do routinely, say. And so I've built it out, again, kind of kept it a little simple for presentation purposes. But I've got like how long we normally, work on pre-design, schematic design, detail design. So I set up my schedule, and then I went ahead and I preloaded in those generic resources that typically work on these type of projects. And I scheduled out how many potential hours it normally takes. So under pre-design, under civil, I have an architect, a designer, and a CAD manager. Again, I just use generic resources. You could also use named resources if you have named key employees that would be working on these projects. And I went ahead and built out kind of that estimate of how many hours it should take for that 6 weeks for that part of the project. And this gives me an idea of what my potential labor contract is, all of those things with having it in the template. So as a project manager, I could come in and, just start from this template and then just make some tweaks instead of having to build it from scratch every time. But one of the things I found in going through this process of creating these templates is if I were to copy this template while I'm here in project planning, it just copies my shell of the project. So one of the things as I got investigating and trying to figure out what would be the most efficient way to use these templates is to make sure, and I'm going to hop over and I already have the project applet open, is that my project template, one is set up as a template in the project applet, but then I'm going to use this to then create my next project that is for this type of work. So when we use the copy function in the project applet, it will bring in your planning information and any other of these items that you've set up in your project template. Now this is set up as a billable project, but because it's flagged as a template, there's no chance of time or expense being charged to it. So if we create these templates for our standard work types, then your PMs or your project coordinators that may set up project can come into the project applet, open up that template, they may search for it, however they may get to it, and then start that copy process. So if I'm going to create that next project, again, if you have auto numbering set up, you can use that. Or again, if you didn't, of course, you can create up that number. I'm going to make a .1. I had done some experimenting, and I can make it that next project name. So this will be project. If I could type, that would be fantastic on a Monday morning. Project template copy. You would use your project name, and I would just hit save. I'm going to copy everything that's in this template into that project. So I've got bill rate schedules, I've got job cost schedules, I've got a generic client. So all of those things that may be applicable to this project type. And I'm going to hit save. And I'm doing this in the project applet. So it took away the template, which is great because we don't want it to be a template. I may just need to change who that client is. So, this might be for Casco Bay. So that's all I would need to do here. And I'm just going to hit save. Now, if I go back over to project planning and we bring up that project, you're going to notice it looks very simple, very identical to the template that we just had open. Same budget amount, same number of hours, all of those things. Okay, so now I very quickly brought in what we anticipate 6 weeks of work for each of those phases of the project and the generic job type. So now what I can do is I can quickly just change the date because again, that template may have been set up in the past and not updated with dates. So I'm going to use that Gantt chart functionality. Now, the only thing I will tell you, when you do copy, it does not bring in any of the predecessors. But if you do a couple quick things here, we can link them together again. So I'm going to start with schematic design, and I'm going to go ahead and add my predecessor in, and I'm going to link it to civil up in pre-design, and I'm going to say finish to start. And I'm just going to mimic that in all of the task underneath schematic design. And I'm using civil because and again, in my little generic world, my 3 tasks underneath pre-design, those always stay the same dates. And this way here, I just can make one date change and then it will update my whole project plan. And then I'm going to do the same thing with detailed design. However, now I'm going to link it to the task underneath schematic design. That way we get that finish to start. So I'm going to link that to 7. And some of you know how to do this, so that's why I'm just kind of breezing through this pretty quickly. And then of course too, I want to link electrical and mechanical up here. So I'm just going to come back up here and my focus was on that first one, making sure all my other phases, but I'm going to link these together. Oops, I did that one backwards. I want to do start to start. Oops, and I do that a lot too. I do this and I forget that add button. And let me just I'm going to remove that one and make sure it's a start to start. Okay, so now I've got everything linked back up pretty quickly. And now I can make that one change and say that this is not going to start until, well, let's say October 6th. And now all my dates pushed forward. I'm now done. I don't have to do anything else. My schedule's automatically pushed out to that time frame for this project. And I'm going to hit save and close. So with adding my predecessors back in and one date change, I've now changed that whole project schedule. And I'm going to save and close. And again, it brought in all of those same numbers that I had previously, so I don't have to do anything different. Now, my dates in my resource schedule will change. I always like using that lock button, if we recall from another session, so that way it locks down to the schedule of the task you're on. At this point too, I could change a generic resource to a named resource, those type of things. What I could also do is, even while I'm in here, maybe there's construction admin to this project, which wasn't part of the template. I can come in. I'm going to switch over to the WBS data, which expands everything out. I'm going to scroll down to detail design. I'm going to click on the phase for detail design and do the right click and say copy. Not cut. Whoops, I did not mean that. I want copy. And then I'm going to come down to the very last line here, and I'm going to paste in that WBS section, and I'm going to name it phase 4, and this is going to be construction admin. And now very quickly, it will bring that new phase into the project. I'm going to go back to the data so it kind of collapses everything down real clean for you. And it brought in those resources again that were in that phase 3 detail design. So now I can tweak that. I could go in, make schedule changes, all of those same processes. Now, one of the things you will want to think about is, especially when you have a project that crosses fiscal years, do you get rate increases, those type of things? So one of the things I'm just going to point out is underneath your pencil, I'm using a schedule called bill rate for planning. And this bill rate schedule, which I do have open, so under your project administration rate schedules, I have this bill rate for planning. It does have multiple years in it. So I have rates that go from 2024 through the end of this fiscal year of 25, and then I have new rates that start in 26. Because this is a flat rate, if I recalculate rates on this project, it will recalculate those hours now that are in 2026 for any of these job titles that may have a rate increase. So if I were to look back at the prior year, and I know a couple of them that I changed. So this principal level previously was 185. If we look at 2026, it's now 190. So I've got a $5 increase. So this using a multiple year schedule will allow you to recalculate rates and get a better idea for this project now what the rates for 2026 will be on the detail design and construction admin. So if I come down to detail design, I want to make sure that my rangefinder here is within that calendar date, just making sure that my lock stayed in place. And if I do the roll up feature and I say allocated equals scheduled, so I want these scheduled resources over in allocation, and then I say budget also equals my allocation, so moving it from this group up here, it's going to refresh detailed design, and it's going to give you a little heartburn when you first do this because your other phases will lose some values, but just bear with me um, and watch the process. So my detailed design should change. Oh, come on now, you did while I was testing mode. Always fit. It's always that, oh, you know what? It could be I don't have people, may not have folks that changed rates in that one. I thought I did though. Oh, what, did I hit the wrong button? I'm sorry. I decided to click too fast, didn't I? I think I hit contract amount instead of budget. But you should see a change and see again at 2, these values did update to 0. So you would want to update your lower levels first and then come back up to that project level and go ahead and do that roll up. So that way it'll refresh everything. This is what you always want to watch out for.
Hey, Tammy, just
Yes.
we had someone that just said if you could please review how to add the resource groups down at the task level. They might have missed it.
Okay. Yep. So the resource group, so when I did construction admin, of course, I had copied, so it brought in the existing ones. So if I want to do something on the scheduled side, I can just come over to the resource group. If I don't know who it is, I can use the generic job title, and I can grab, let's see who's not in this one, principal. And so I can quickly add a new resource and schedule them out as well. So if they need to work, 1 hour each day during the 43 days of that time period. So if I just needed to add one new resource to one of those tasks that I brought in, I could do that. Does that help answer the question? And then I would want to definitely do that roll up process because now I've got additional $5,700 that's not showing up in my contract amount or my budget amount. Sorry, not contract. So then I would just roll those up for that civil. So now we've got that change. Okay. And then if I roll everything up, it'll update all of those prior and bring in those proper amounts. Okay. And again, too, if I need to push that construction admin date out, which again, probably wouldn't fall in line with detail design, I'm going to go up to that Gantt and then add that new predecessor. And I will connect it to phase 3, finish to start. And again, it will automatically push that out, and as well as my resources will go with it. Okay. So hopefully that will gain you some efficiency in setting up your projects and adding resources to it. Again, if you need to, you can always then swap out your named resources, whether you're doing that in here or in resource scheduling. So when this project comes truly under contract and you know who's going to work on it, you can do that function. If by chance your rate schedule does not go multi-year, but your new project does, you can come in and add that new calendar year or fiscal time period with the updated rates. And then while you're in planning, you can run your recalculate rates here, and it would recalculate all of those rates if they got snapped at that 2025 value and update them to 2026. And again, if you've done the full roll up, you would want to make sure to do allocations and scheduled. Sometimes I don't know if I've clicked the button, and other times so we'll just give it a second here. I've clicked it twice, so hopefully. There it goes. So again, any of those that I have, new rates for, I can get those in there.
Tammy, Justin also said, I'm using groups and not the allocation.
Using groups. You're adding resource groups.
Yes, I believe that's what he means.
Okay. So that is another way you can add resources to your project plan, is to add a group that you have created. So if I'm just going to add a task 40 down here real quick. And then if I'm on that one, and I don't always do resource groups, so I can pick the task, pick sample, and then grab your resource group. That should add it to your, again, I don't know if I have the right.
Hit the refresh there, Tammy, on the schedule.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Thanks. Yep. Yeah. So that resource group has those names. Yep. So yeah, that is another way to bring them on there. The only thing it did not do is it didn't load any type of hours. So you would still need to come back in and load those in there. Great question though, or follow up.
Also another one, can you show how to move the dates and how the allocated hours move with the new dates?
Sure. So there's a couple ways you can change dates. The easiest I have found is within that Gantt. So one thing I do want to preface though is that you can move your dates forward and the schedule will move with that as long as you have this box checked. But you cannot move backwards in time. So if you move backwards, it does not move those scheduled hours. So again, if I were now, because I have items linked, I just really have to focus on one date change on this civil. But I could make a manual change to electrical, or any of these that might be a little bit different. And so I could come in physically and just say, you know what, mechanical is going to start 2 weeks later. And that will just change that row. So I changed mechanical to start 2 weeks later. And so if we come down and, yep, it refreshes over. So it now shows on the 20th. And if I just focus in on that, if I switch to the day view, but if you can see it actually starts here on October 20th. So it moved all the hours I had starting on October 6th forward. So you just need to be cautious. Moving forward is fine. Backwards, the system doesn't know how to move the hours backwards. Great question. So just kind of as a recap, we created a project plan first. I built it all out, and then when I came over to the project applet, I just converted it to a template by checking the template box. That way I don't have any erroneous time or expenses charged to it, and I can use it in the future. We did the copy function out of the plan or out of the project applet and brought those planning information in. And then we opened up our new billable project in planning and made any modifications we needed to do. The dates, any additional phases, those type of things. And then of course, to possibly recalculating those rates if I'm now into a new fiscal period. The other item I just do want to point out is if your rate schedule is not a flat rate, that's not going to work appropriately. So if you're using a schedule that uses a DP overhead or profit markup against their pay rate, unless you have pay rates loaded into the future, this going multi-year will not calculate. It'll still use their whatever their current pay rate is to calculate the budget amount for their billing. So this really works really well for a flat rate type schedule. So you may want to think about having like an average bill rate that's in a flat rate form for any type of planning that may be before the project comes in officially. Okay. Any other questions? So those were my additional tips and tricks, and that came from some current questions that we've heard kind of several times now here the past few months is how, how can we make things more efficient to get our resources loaded without having to add them manually each time. So Tim, I'll turn it back over to you and we can answer any questions.
Yeah.
Tammy, I actually have a question. This is Amy.
Hi, Amy.
Hi. When you're, so you mentioned earlier that you can create a template for a project and then save this and copy it over. Can you do the same thing with just a work-based structure template and not at the project level?
Are you referring to this?
Yes.
Yeah, that one won't retain, that just gives you the structure. That won't give you any of the dates or the ability to add any planning information.
Okay.
So that's only going to make it faster for you to actually just, like if I were to do new here and, wow. I'm not going to fill out all of the rest because we're just going to add budget by rate is required. All that is going to allow me to do is if I'm in that mode is just add that template. So That's all it's going to give me. It won't bring in any of the resources or potential budget amounts I put together.
Okay. And so we use the CRM,
Okay.
and when projects are pushed from CRM to AE, we make changes to it to turn it into an actual project.
Okay.
In that scenario, how would that work to copy project planning?
So if your CRM project came in, let me see if I have an opportunity in here. So you would actually have to, do they come in at the project level?
Yes.
Um,
There's also in the project itself, it has a embedded link. So whenever we make updates here, it updates the CRM.
okay.
So I'm just trying to
Yeah.
how that would work.
Yeah, so once the projects are in the system, like this, I can't really, like I can't copy and bring it, like it's gonna create a new one. I can't bring in that template to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish there was a way, Amy, that we could do that.
And then my other question is, we've copied other projects in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no way for us to update the dates. And maybe that's something that we do in the Gantt chart.
Yeah, you could, if you use an existing project to create a new one, you could definitely just come into planning for that and use the Gantt to change the dates.
Okay, because we noticed that if we go into the project itself, on the phase, the dates are grayed out and they're like older dates.
Yeah, but no, you could definitely come in, if nothing else, use the Gantt chart in planning to modify those dates.
Okay.
So on this one here, yeah, I can change those dates. And that was one, yeah, but yeah, so like if I went back into that test project, and we went down to schematic design, so that date here is grayed out, like Amy mentioned. So by going over into the planning module and just the Gantt chart, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, those dates, I don't know if I did not hit save, but those dates, you'll be able to change them. Yeah, I guess I didn't change it in here. Whoops, let me go Gantt. And then I'll change this one up. I'll change it significantly so you can see a couple. So I changed those first two.
But if a project's gonna start earlier, we
Yeah.
can't do that. We can only move backwards.
If
Or we
you don't have any resources assigned yet, you can go backwards. It's once you have those resources allocated, it's not going to bring them back to a older date. But you can always, if there's no resources, you can change that schedule to whatever you need.
Hey, Tammy,
Yes.
regarding the earlier question about pushing from CRM to UAE, what
Mhm.
we have in our company is, I don't know if it's a customization or not, but Unanet did it where when we select, before you push, we can say, hey, use this particular project template, and it would create all the WBS and everything filled out. Or we could also use this copy project in the CRM when we say
Okay.
push. So what it does is it just functions just like what you said here, right? Creating a new project using a template or copy a project, but it was done in CRM. It would give you a list of templates. It's not automatic, but it's you have to work with Unanet, and maybe it's a small minor what do you call it, customization maybe.
Mhm.
So that's just an input I want to provide for
Oh,
everyone.
that's great to know. So Amy, that might be an option for you.
Yes, it might be. We're currently looking at how things are mapped between the two right now.
Okay.
So thank you.
That was a great share. Thank you for sharing that. That's the whole purpose of these lunch and learns, because I knew you could do a template in CRM. I just didn't know if it would bring over planning information. So that's great if it can.
Amy, we have another question. It's kind of unrelated, it says, but why would I not have linked opportunity field in my project admin screen like yours has?
So
And
let me go
Courtney
back
may
to the
have,
project level.
Courtney may have answered it, but I'm not.
Okay. Yeah, so it could be that it's on another tab. So that's one of those fields that when you first Unanet was first installed, that was kind of sitting on a tab called custom. And so in our demo environment, it just was moved to the to the general tab. So it may be if you have administrator capabilities under utilities, if you go out to layout manager and projects, you may have a tab called custom. And so you would click on custom and then you would remove that field. So if this was that linked opportunity field, you would trash can it here. And that just removes the field and puts it back into the listing. And then you could come back up to your general tab if that's where you want it. And then you can add it to the list. So if I found that test column here, and I want it underneath that linked opportunity, I could do that. And so if I close, so there's no save in here. If I close projects and come back in, so there's that test field, which looks like it's just a little test box there, text box. So, but that's what you would just need to do. If you have that administrator capability, go into Layout Manager, and then that field should be available for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So another question is, I have had issues with modifying my budget numbers in planning. What could be causing that restriction in editing the budget hours or dollars in the planning project window?
So are you just modifying the columns here in the project grid, or are you actually doing like resources? So just a little bit more information.
Sure, Tammy. The times that I've had issues is when I start with a new project, and
Okay.
I've watched several of these of the webinars here, and at first I thought it all had to be done on the over on the Project Central side. So that's where I started doing it. And then
Okay.
after the first series started and I found out I could do it on this side and on the planning side, I tried to, and it wouldn't let me do it. So I don't know if it had something to do with if you start adding allocations or something like that, that it locks those, or just kind of looking for some guidance.
So that's a great question. So it'll let me add those hours, kind of manually. But if I'm going to come down and I'm just going to do a allocation type under design, I may not have a rate. Let me go back to, I don't know if architect's in there or if it's, let me use my principal one because I know that's in that grouping. Oh, scheduled. I want allocation units. Still not giving me. So I've not experimented with that. Because I thought you could still like override this even once you had stuff, which, probably wouldn't recommend doing, but I didn't think these were locked down. Because
I'm
again,
ready to
yes,
go
they
there.
are in Project Central. You could change them there too.
Yeah, which is what I've had to do in the past. And so I'm kind of the guy that's trying to figure it out for our organization. And as I try to go help other people, I've run into issues where they start new projects. We get the WBS set up, and instead of going into Project Central, I have them start to go here. Well, then we can't do anything, and I'm
Yeah,
trying to figure out why. I don't know if it's a permissions issue. I need to research more.
yeah.
But
I just realized
then
I
there's other
did not
times I
have,
found where I can do it. So it's kind of a hit or miss thing, and I don't understand why.
okay. I was gonna say, I forgot I did not attach a rate schedule to that one, so I'm wondering if, that's why I didn't get a rate on that 1 hour. There we go. Are you, and have you done roll-ups?
Not historically.
Okay. Because that should have brought in my, well, let's see if it'll save my 185 now. There we go. Yeah, so like once you start doing roll-ups, like it should wipe out like what you entered manually. But I think I can still type in here if I wanted to. So it could just be the roll-up. If you're doing that process, it's wiping out what you had, and that might be the issue, but you're saying these fields are locked down.
Yeah, there's times that I can't. I've had other people that I was training, they were able to do it, but then when I'd come back to my projects, I couldn't do them. So it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, I'd have to look at permissions. I don't recall off
Sure.
the top of my head. So I'll
I
make
may,
a note, Brian, and then I'll get some information over to Tim to send to you.
that'd be great. I
Tammy,
appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh,
Really
Courtney,
quick. Go back to the project. I wonder if maybe on your projects, Brian, there's some kind of planning lockout.
oh,
Maybe here.
Yeah.
I would just check that also. Maybe
I'll look at that. Thank you.
yeah.
but I will take a look at permissions and see if there's anything in there as well that might be giving you some issues.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Another question, Tammy. If there are levels below the phases in the WBS, can you change all those subtasks by changing the phase dates?
Well, when you're in planning, let me go to my one that has those dates in it, or those tasks in it. There we go. That was the one I was using. So are you, you can change dates here. It's not going to reflect in those lower levels. And then of course, when you're in the Gantt chart, you'll notice that the phase levels are actually grayed out. So they really recommend or really want you to change them at that lower level, and that will roll it up. So again, if I push this one out to November 1st, again, it's still going to pick, and I have things linked. So, but that's, yeah, they really want you to make those changes at the lower level and let it roll up instead of, because there's no roll down feature. And that's why I'll do the link of the predecessors. So that way, I only have to make one date change rather than making, let's see. So we've got 3, 6, 9, 12, I don't have to make 13 changes. So. And if you do make that change kind of in this area, again, I'm not sure what's going to start happening with all of your, because again, in here, you could make that, it's not letting me either. So even though it looks like you can do a drop down and change, it doesn't pop up, but it'll let me do it at that lower level. Great question.
Hopefully that answers the question. If not, you can just chime in. Another one, when you added CA into the plan,
Uh-huh.
does it automatically add it to the WBS level on the project side?
Yeah. Again, as long as when we talked, you don't have any of that lockout. So if I go back into that project. Yep, CA is there. So if your permission set allows you to do that, then yes.
Awesome.
So
Really
it,
good
it will depend, you know, based upon some permissions and things. But if you're able to, if you have access to the WBS and it opens up, then yes, you can add additional phases and tasks. Like I could even add, you know, a task 40 underneath pre-design if I needed to.
Awesome. Really good questions. If anybody else have any additional questions in regards to project planning or anything else, please feel free to unmute or you can put it in the chat box.
Hi, hi, this is Steve. I've got a simple question, I think. Um, when entering the resource hours over on the right side in the resource schedule,
Mm-hmm.
I noticed you highlighted like several weeks and was able to enter like a time for multiple dates
Yeah.
or hours, and I can only highlight one day
Yeah,
at a time.
let me find one that gives me multiple dates. Oh, again, that darn ruler will get you every time. So the trick for that is hold your control key down
Oh, okay, control.
and I always kind of it seems like if you and then that will pop up when you release your control key. I find if I click in that one first, like I have to come back. So the key is to hold that control key down first and click the box, and then it'll come up where I can enter in, you know, how many hours do I want them to work on each day, because I'm using the automatic, and it's for the 43 days. So if I want them to work, you know, four hours each day, it's going to schedule them and update that.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think on the web view, you can just click and drag across there. I didn't realize you had to hold control. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's how I learned. So I know you can kind of but I'm a kind of keyboard mouse kind of shortcut. So that's how I've always, you know, that's been my mechanism. So, yep.
Yep, thank you.
Sure. Great question.
Mm.
I don't know if that control is in the keyboard shortcuts that we have, Tim, for project planning. So we may want to look at that and maybe update that file. I haven't looked at on the control key on that list.
Yep. Yeah, we can look at that and add it.
Mm-hmm.
Good one. Any other questions? Just to reiterate too, that this presentation was kind of an add-on to the first three that we did previous over, I think it was in March and April. So when we send this recording, or when I send this recording, I will also include parts 1, 2, and 3. So it kind of rounds out the whole project planning, resource scheduling area of Unanet. So if there's bits and pieces that don't quite make sense in this presentation, once you watch the first three, it'll make more sense, if that makes sense.
And Tim, I can stop sharing if there's no other questions that I need Unanet for at the moment.
And again, we have a couple more minutes if anybody wants to ask another Unanet type question.
This is Melanie. I have a question. This is related to not project planning necessarily, but moving time. We have been experimenting recently with if we have change orders or things like that that don't get sold, moving time off of those. We call them ASRs. If a project manager's been working on it, but then ultimately we don't sell that ASR or change order, but there's time on it, moving that time. We had a situation recently where the client decided to create another whole separate project instead of having a change order on the project. So we created a sub project. Now, when we went to move the time though, so the new sub project was in opportunity mode. The main project was in billable mode and had been previously billed. When we went to move that time off of the main project to the sub project that's an opportunity, it created a sales, like it billed that opportunity project. And I don't know, I actually took a screenshot of it, but I don't know if that is something when you're, you go in and move time like that, if there is the transaction types. If you had previous sales on a project and you're moving some time that wasn't billed to an opportunity project, do you know why it would have created that bill on the opportunity? We did have sales clicked off, expense and unit billings, timesheets, and adjustments.
I'd have to see it, but was the project already billed?
So do you want to, so the main project had already been billed. So I actually could share a screenshot. I don't know if that's, if I can do that here, but.
You're more than welcome as long as you're okay with it.
Oh yeah, totally. Let me pull it up. Let me see if I can find it. So.
I think I have it so anybody can share.
Okay, let me just move it over to a bigger screen here. That's over. Okay, let me see. Share. Okay, can you all see that?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so this is the new, so 1822.004 was the opportunity. This was the time that we had moved over. It moved over as unbilled. This was the original project, the 1822.002 that we had in bill review, and we billed it out 100%. But when I moved the time, it created this new on this phase that we were, going to delete. So we had to move the time off. But when we did that, it created a build 100%. And then it also did it on the opportunity. So I don't know if I somehow found a magic way to make it really messed up. But I just didn't know if that had ever happened to anyone else, because we really just kind of started experimenting with this. And I was, that added to our revenue. And then I was also like, wait, why is this saying it's been billed 100%? It's still in opportunity mode. And it's also listing the time as unbilled. So yeah, I don't know.
Did it create a sales journal?
That's what I am unsure of, because when you look at the, the function in Unanet, it's in PA, project admin, it's move project transactions. When you pull that up, there is a transaction type field that it has listed timesheets, expense and unit billing, sales, and adjustments. So that's where I'm unsure, depending on what we're actually moving or where it is in the project cycle, should we be clicking and unclicking some of these things
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think, Melanie, if you had that sales checked, that it would have moved any sales journal to the new project as well.
Okay, so because it was an active billable project that we were moving time off to a opportunity, it like created that sale. So if usually it's like we're just moving time in phases or moving it off, within the same project. This was the first time we tried it with like different project numbers.
Yeah, I think if you find the sales journal for that, you can probably just easily manually move that sales journal back to the original project.
Okay, but we
I
never
don't, I
actually
don't
like,
think there's going to be two sales journals. I think there's just going to be one sales journal that is now pointing to the wrong project.
right, but we never sold that phase. So that was the thing, was that they wanted to actually move it to a separate project instead of making the sale on that original project.
So in that project figures report, I can see it looks like $10,000 has been
Yeah,
billed. When you
yeah.
click down on that, what are you seeing? Click on the 10,000, one more to
Oh,
the
well,
right.
this is a screenshot, so hold on.
Oh, sorry.
And I actually went in and deleted it. So when I went in, so this was the, this $10,000 was, created on the opportunity, but it also was created on the main project at the same time. So that's where I don't know if, because I had that sales clicked off while I was moving this time off of the original project, it created that sales journal on the original project and just moved it over to the new one. So I think that's what you're saying, right, Mary?
Yeah, I don't think it automatically created a sales journal though.
But I never went in and made this 100% or build it. So that's where I felt confused.
Yeah,
Like
I
we
think
had lost that. So it was like, we want to move this time off to a sub project because they didn't want, we technically didn't lose it, but I had never previously gone in and created a sales journal for this phase on the project because we were waiting to see if the client was going to, what they wanted to do.
Right.
yeah.
I can look at this with you, Melanie, if you want to schedule a
Yeah, I
meeting.
kind of figured this might be a little bit more of like, but I was like, oh, well, there's, maybe I'll just ask the group.
No, it's good because other people may run into the same thing. And
But I went in, afterwards and I just deleted the sales journals because we haven't actively made that sale yet. And it kind of, corrected the problem. But I guess moving forward, I just want to make sure that I'm not doing something that's going to like continue to cause that type of thing to happen. But yeah, Jessica, we could talk about this offline for sure.
chances are it's probably something simple.
It probably is. It's usually the case.
Hold down the control key or something like that, like we learned earlier.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
I'm just going to share my screen one more time just so everyone can make note before we close of our next visit. September 1st, we won't have a meeting just because it's Labor Day. And then also September 15th, kind of a cool presentation about Unanet Data Lake and Power BI and all the tools that come along with that. So that's going to be a good one if you can join us for that. But we'll send some reminders as well for that before we get to it. But thank you so much again for everybody joining us. It was a good discussion today. Hopefully you gained some insight, and we'll see everyone on the next time. Have a great week.